Hi guys, here we go again. Betsy Bears, and not just anybody family. Let's see. Oh, it's not, the chapters aren't numbered. So, starting a new chapter called Walking the Plank. That's what pirates do. There's no pirates in this book. Hand up the board. Vern was up on the crook of the elm tree by the jail. Maggie was below him, hiding a 10-foot board between her and the trunk of the tree. "Someone's coming," she hissed. "Look innocent," he hissed back. "I am innocent." The man walked slower as he saw Maggie flattened against the tree. When she saw he was going to stop, her eyes got as round as cartoon eyes. "Oh, hello." She pulled her lips up into a smile. The man combed his hair with his hands. "Are you all right?" "Of course." "It's late, isn't it, for you to be out by yourself?" "Yes, but my dad's a cop. He'll be out in a minute. He told me to wait here. I'm not supposed to go inside because children aren't allowed. My dad thinks criminals are a bad influence." "Do you want me to go in and tell your dad you're out here?" "He knows," Maggie said quickly. Behind the board began falling forward, and she stopped it with her head. She looked up at the man through her eyelashes. The man watched Maggie and the board for a full 30 seconds. Maggie shoved the board back against the tree with her head and stared right back at him. Overhead in the tree, Vern waited without breathing. Ever since he had gotten the idea of breaking into jail, he had been gripped by a kind of excitement he had never felt before. He was amazed that his ordinary, everyday mind had thought of it. Breaking into jail. It had come to him in a flash. One moment he had been standing there with Maggie looking stupidly at the jail, wondering what to do. And the next moment the idea burst out of his brain like one of those fantastic Dr. Seuss trees too wild and wonderful to be real. He gazed down through the leaves where the man stood with Maggie. He could see the man's bald spot. Vern took in a deep breath and closed his eyes in prayer. Finally the man remembered. When he and his gang used to steal lumber at night to build the clubhouse, with a smile, he shrugged and went on down the street. Again, Maggie got ready to pass the board up to Vern. "Here," she said. When she felt him take the board, she put her hands on the bottom and boosted it to the rest of the way. "I got it," Vern said. "Let go." Maggie moved back into the shadows by the jail and watched. The only sound was the rustling of elm leaves as Vern and the board made their way up the street. The rustling stopped across from the open vent of the jail. Slowly the board appeared from the side of the tree. Slowly it extended across the sidewalk. Slowly it waved up and down like one end of a seesaw. "You're too low," Maggie called. "You're going to miss it by a mile." The end of the board scraped against the side of the jail. It was about 5 feet below the vent. It rose shakily in the air, then it wavered, trembled, turned sideways, and clattered down to the sidewalk. "Vern!" Maggie said. "I didn't do it on purpose," he snapped from inside the tree. "Well, that could have hit me." The only answer was a rustling of leaves as Vern made his way down. Maggie got the board and dragged it back to the tree trunk. She waited for Vern's hand it up. "Here, I got it. Be careful this time." Maggie was glad she had gotten in the last word. She went back and stood in the shadows, this time far out of the way of the elm tree. Again, she heard the rustling of leaves. Again, she saw the board coming out like a gangplank. "Too high," Maggie called. Vern groaned and heaved and shoved, and by a miracle, that was how it seemed to Maggie, the board swept across the gap and landed on the ledge. It snapped into place as neatly as something from a Lego building set. "Now," Maggie called, "all you have to do is walk across." "That's all?" Vern echoed. Up in the tree, he eyed the narrow board and his heart sank. Vern had never admitted it, but he had always been aware that he did not have the daring his brother and sister had. Junior wanted to be a stuntman, Maggie wanted to be a trick writer, and he wanted to do something no one in the family had ever done before: work in an office. He dreamed of sharp pencils and unlimited stacks of paper and paper clips and rulers. His happiest moments in school came when the teacher asked them to fill out the forms. That, he felt, was the closest he had ever come to office work. He handed in the neatest forms of anyone in his class. That's why it was such a miracle that he had not only conceived this brilliant, ingenious plan, but was putting it into effect. He stepped on the board. He jiggled to make sure it was steady. Maggie saw the shaken leaves and called, "Be careful, don't fall, whatever you do." Vern did not answer. He put his right foot in front of his left, heel to toe, then took one more step. He was holding on to the overhead branches, working on balance. He took another step, another. Then the branches stopped. Vern stood for a moment, holding the last two leaves one in each hand. Then, with a sigh, he let go. He held his arms out to the side. No circus tightrope walker had ever concentrated harder. Vern kept his eyes on the vent, heel to toe, toe to heel. He made his way across the board. His arms seesawed gently in the cool night air. He did not look down once. Below, Maggie stood with her hands clasped. She appeared to be and was praying. "We need Junior for this," she said. "Thanks," Vern said through his tight lips. The board was beginning to sag. With every step, it bent lower, buckling under his weight. Ahead, he could see that the board was slipping closer to the end of the ledge. He took another heel-to-toe step. The board sagged lower. "Vern," Maggie called, "did you notice that the board's starting to bend?" Vern did not answer. He figured that one more step was all the board could take. One more step and he and the board would crash to the pavement. And that awful moment, with his arms waving at his side, his heart pounding in his throat, the vent going in and out of focus before his tear-filled eyes, Vern made the decision of his life. Vern jumped. There's a picture for you. Traveling mud. Mud was making his way through the finest section of town, Maple Leaf Manor, where the rich people lived. He loped along the smooth white sidewalks, taking his time, pausing now and then to lift his leg on a wrought iron mailbox or particular fine piece of shrubbery. An occasional car passed, lighting up his pale fur, giving a red look to his golden eyes. Mud paid the cars no attention. He slowed. His sharp ears had picked up the sound of running water. It came from behind this house, and he turned onto the soft manicured lawn. He ambled around the house to the swimming pool, where a spray of water ran continuously down the silver sliding board. He stretched out on the cool tiles around the pool, stuck his head over the side, and lapped the clear, chlorinated water. It wasn't as good as toilet water or creek water, which he was accustomed to, but Mud was thirsty. When he had drunk all he wanted, he spent a few seconds licking stray drops from his legs and feet. He chewed a flea on his ankle. Then Mud got to his feet. He stretched. He was getting ready to lift his leg in the direction of a lounge chair to mark the fact that he'd been there. Suddenly, from the right, Mud heard a long, low roar. The hair rose on Mud's back. His sharp eyes looked in the shadows of a small walkway between the double garage and the house. There Mud could see the high, pointed ears of a Doberman. He could see the gleam of long white teeth. The Doberman drew in another breath to give another longer An answering growl rose in Mud's throat. The Doberman leapt forward, throwing himself at Mud. He choked on his chain and fell back. He tried to attack again. Mud hesitated. Mud had never started a fight in his life, but Mud had never run from a fight either. Now he was ready for battle. His teeth were bared. His hair was up. His eyes were bright. If the Doberman got free, Mud would meet him more than halfway. The Doberman was barking wildly, throwing himself in Mud's direction, trying either to break his chain or to pull the whole house down. Between leaps, the metal links rattled against the slate floor. "Franklin!" a voice called from an upstairs window. "Be quiet down there." "Maybe it's a burglar, Sam." All right, I'll take a look. Mud stood still frozen at the edge of the pool. The patio lights went on. Mud lowered his tail. He heard sounds at the door, the unsnapping of the deadbolt lock, the click of the doorknob. Franklin was barking wildly, knowing his owner was on the way. He was facing the door now, legs stiff with anticipation. As the door opened, Mud ran around the pool. He whipped through the hedge and galloped across the lawn like a racehorse. Behind him, a voice said kindly, "What's wrong, Franklin? You all right, boy?" Franklin whined with pleasure. "Was some stray dog after your bone?" Mud hit the sidewalk and slowed. He lifted his leg on a bush at the Doberman's driveway. Then he took the time to scratch the grass vigorously with his back feet. A spray of fine zoysia grass flew into the night air. Then, without a backward glance, Mud ambled down the sidewalk on his way to Pap.